Woke meltdown as states ban free money scams and universal basic income. This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Coming from Bloomberg, states push back against guaranteed income with new bans. More than 100 pilots have been advanced across the U.S. to give low-income residents monthly cash payments. Now some legislatures are blocking them. Well, of course they're blocking them. This is terrible for society. Absolutely, people have problems with money. Absolutely, things are more expensive than they ever have been. Inflation is completely out of control. But if you're going to just go and give some low-income people money, and of course, it's a diversity, equity, and inclusion thing where only certain skin colors can get the money, or people who are transgender or transgender mothers or whatever it is that they're doing. It's discriminatory, but beyond it being discriminatory, it's completely dehumanizing. You can't have the government deciding what your lifestyle is going to be. If you are disabled, if you can't work, if you have a special need, you deserve some kind of government help. We do have services for that. But you can't take a huge portion of the population and start giving them free money. They will never get ahead. People that get on entitlement programs never tend to get off entitlement programs. It's a trap. It's not good for them. It's not good for government. It's not good for the society. So red states, conservative states, have started to step up and say no more on these programs. We're not going to let some cities and counties, different jurisdictions within the state, ruin people's lives with making them dependent on the government. It's just another socialist redistribution of income scam. After years of momentum behind guaranteed income programs that distribute no strings attached cash, the backlash has arrived in force. 3 Republican-led states passed laws this session that will preempt localities from launching direct cash assistance initiatives. At least 6 other states' legislators have tried or are trying the same thing. And now, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has sued Harris County for its just-launched pilot. Advocates for basic income programs say they see these challenges as part of a broader effort led by Republican-heavy legislatures in red states to preempt cities and counties from passing progressive policies. Well, what they make into progressive policies start out about everyone being treated equally, and then it becomes diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then it becomes we need to push this on your children. And then it becomes you don't even recognize what their version of a human being is anymore. It's one thing to be progressive. It's another thing to start limiting free speech, changing the definition of man and woman, and enforcing your beliefs on everyone else. It's tyrannical, and that's what they want. Imagine if they're going to push this agenda, if they're going to push other progressive agendas, and they control people's incomes. They can decide what your lifestyle is and how you can live and how much money you can have because it's basically how much money they're giving you. It's much worse than socialized medicine. It's socialized lifestyle. And it's really just a move for them to get power over people. Once they have total power over people, look at how they abuse it. You think they're going to keep giving you free money forever? I don't think so. I don't trust these people. I don't think you should either. The opponents pushing these state bills have argued that the targeted benefits are a waste of taxpayer resources and that the guaranteed income programs may deter people from working. Yeah, it does deter people from working when you get free money. We just went through this during the pandemic. Remember, there were people that were getting paid not to work, and they were getting paid even when they could go back to work, more money not to work than if they went back to work. Of course, some people wanted to go back to work anyway. And other people, the financial difference wasn't that way. But especially for people that are getting paid more not to work, you think they're going back to work? Most people, of course not. And what does that do to them? It makes them unfit for society. It further degrades society for everyone. Since 2018, more than 100 guaranteed income pilots have been proposed or launched in counties and cities across the U.S. They distribute money at regular intervals to specific populations in need, like low-income residents or new mothers or homeless youth of certain specific skin colors. We could get into that in great detail, but suffice it to say, if you do a little research, you'll find the same research that I did. Unlike other social safety net programs, they don't typically ask recipients to meet any conditions in exchange for the money or use it in particular ways. They are also said to be more efficient than other government programs saddled with red tape and administrative burdens. If they directly give money away to people, then they don't need to have government offices with government employees that cost them a lot of money figuring out who is worthy and who is not worthy to receive their free money. So just throw out all this free money directly to people, no requirements. I'm sure they'll be responsible. Let them have as much money as they need, basically, or maybe have a certain limit. Who knows? No one needs to watch over this, and I'm sure it'll all just work out well. No, it's not going to work out well. Of course it doesn't work out well. And of course, once you get stuck on a program like this, you're never going to leave a program like this. Now that the programs have proliferated, detractors say they oppose them for many of the same reasons they dislike other safety net programs, which aren't really just safety net programs. An emergency is an emergency, and almost everyone can go through a difficult time in their life and they can benefit from some help. But it should be just as important to get people off programs than it is to get people on programs, or their life is forever limited by being on that program. And that doesn't even count the cost to society financially and socially. Well, proponents of these programs aren't hiding the ball. The goal is not to replace existing welfare programs. The goal is to expand it, said Haley Holick, a senior fellow at the conservative think tank Foundation for Government Accountability, whose advocacy arm has backed up the majority of the state preemption bills. South Dakota, Idaho, and Iowa all passed laws this session that bar counties or cities in those states from making guaranteed income program payments. Lawmakers in Arizona, Wisconsin, and Mississippi advanced similar legislation this session, but their efforts were unsuccessful so far. Arkansas enacted a law preempting all localities from creating universal basic incomes in 2023. West Virginia legislators introduced a Work Protection Act this year that would do the same if passed. Besides similar language and aims, these bills have something else in common. All have been championed by the Opportunity Solutions Project, the lobbying arm of the Foundation for Government Accountability. The group has had a history of fighting to roll back the social safety net. It has opposed Medicaid expansion efforts, advocated for adding work requirements to the Supplemental Assistance Program, so making sure that you're working if they're giving you SNAP benefits, and criticized ESG. Anyone sensible is going to criticize ESG, yes. The Washington Post reported that the group was also behind state legislation relaxing child labor laws. Well, if kids want to work legally, let them work legally. I don't have a problem with that as long as it's safe for them. You know how much you learn when you're a kid and you get a job? Quite a bit. Not 5-year-olds, not 7-year-olds. Let them at least be teenagers, but sure, let them work. Why not? Adam Gibbs, a spokesperson for the Foundation for Government Accountability, said the organization would support similar guaranteed income bans in 35 states where it's active. The majority of the states considering or passing such legislation do not have any guaranteed income programs running, meaning that preemption is truly preemptive. But there will be some other short-term impacts. Iowa's 2-year Uplift Iowa pilot, which has been giving 110 low-income residents $500 a month since May 2023, will have to stop using government funding when the law comes into effect in 2025 and rely on private donors for the rest of its run. If you want to get private donors to fund low-income people not changing their lives, sure, get it from donors, raise the money. Just don't expect government that taxes people who are paying their taxes to give money to people to keep them down and to not give them an opportunity to earn their own money with these ridiculous, unhelpful programs. Well, prohibitions such as these tie the hands of local policymakers and limit the tools available to them to determine how to best serve their communities. According to the Deputy Director for Income Security at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities in a recent blog post. Well, what income security do you need if you're just getting free money from the government? Like, okay, here's free money. Don't worry about the inflation. Don't worry about who we're taking this money from to give to you. Just take this free money, and that's secure. No, it's not secure. South Dakota State Senator John Week, who sponsored his state's preemption legislation, says he was motivated by a concern that supplementing incomes with regular payments would deter people from working, as it has always proven to do since the dawn of time, like forever. It's not a giant logical leap where if people say, I'll just give you money, stay home. They're going to take the money and they're going to stay home. You'll have total control over them. You'll get to say what they can do and how they can spend that money. Whether it's not right away, it's going to turn into that. Think of a child with an allowance. If you give a child an allowance, can that child really spend the money any which way they want to? Isn't their lifestyle limited exactly by the amount that you give them as an allowance? If you give them $100 a week, it would be different than if you gave them $2,000 a week. Or if you were giving them $2,000 a week, and then you said, yeah, but you know what? I'm going to put some extra demands on you. They have to comply with those demands if they want to continue to get that money. This kind of relationship with government is completely unacceptable. And as seductive as it is to get free money for nothing, people really should think twice about it because they're giving up their future with this. South Dakota has the second lowest employment rate in the country, and 12.5% of the population was living below poverty levels as of 2022. Quote, I don't pass a ton of bills. I mainly go to the state capitol to play defense and make good decisions, he said. I viewed this as defense for the future. Other critics have expressed fears that given free rein, people will spend the extra money on vices. Well, of course they'll spend the extra money on vices. If people are substance abusers, they're not going to spend the money on substance abuse. They're already spending whatever they can on substance abuse. If you just give them free money, what do you think they're going to spend it on? Though they claim research has complicated those critiques. After a year of receiving $500 a month, participants in a pilot guaranteed income program in Stockton, California, saw greater increases to their full-time employment rates than members of a control group who weren't receiving the regular payments. Research also shows people use the cash for essentials like rent and food. Participating in pilots has also been shown to improve some people's physical and mental health. The expanded child tax credit, an example of the kind of far-reaching, unrestricted cash transfer advocates would like to see more applied nationally, helped lift an estimated 3 to 3.5 million children out of poverty in each of its first 3 months in 2021. Well, you could lift all of them out of poverty by just giving all of them free money. But do you think that might catch up as a problem in the future? We already have a national debt that's completely out of control. We have had some GDP growth, meaning the country has grown. But all of that growth is due to unsustainable debt levels. That's a problem if you say, okay, look, I've got more money in my bank account than I've ever had before. Oh, I just charged up all my credit cards and then I got some bank loans and then I got more credit cards and some more bank loans. And look at this, I have all this money in my account. Well, that's great, but don't you have to pay back those loans? If you don't, inflation will be absolutely out of control forever. We don't want that. It means all the purchasing power goes into the stock market or into assets, which really a lot of people don't have access to. And even if they did have access to them, the richest of the rich are the ones that really benefit when inflation gets out of control, not these low-income people. Quote, it's interesting that so much of the misguided government pushback against guaranteed income has happened already when the horse has left the gate, says Michael Tubbs, the former mayor of Stockton, California, and the co-founder of Mayors and Counties for a Guaranteed Income. After 100+ pilots and data coming out every month, it is an idea whose time has come. So it's too little too late. Yeah, his brain is too little too late. It's not working. They do research and then they don't explain the research. It didn't work out that way during the pandemic with a much larger sample size than his little Stockton, California test. But Holick, who focuses on regulatory and workforce policies at the Foundation for Government Accountability, questioned the validity of research sourced from limited pilots. Well, she must have been listening to me. As most of our FGA research will show, over and over again, as welfare expands, workforce participation shrinks, she said. Okay, yeah, but you're not supposed to look at that number and stop being so smart all the time. The pieces of legislation FGA's advocacy arm supported this session all take aim at local governments that seek to administer or fund such programs. Though early pilots were primarily seeded by philanthropies, increasingly localities are tapping government funds to pay for them. According to the Stanford Basic Income Lab, nearly half of the existing pilots and programs have used public dollars. FGA calculated the total spending on pilots, quote, both active and concluded in the U.S. so far, to be over $2 billion in private and public funds, according to data source from Stanford Basic Income Lab. Dopey Tubbs says the increasing reliance on public funding shows how far these policies have moved into the mainstream. And he highlighted recent polling of 1,800 likely voters commissioned by mayors for guaranteed income, in which 43% of Republican respondents indicated they'd support a federal guaranteed income policy, alongside more than 80% of Democrats. And in Texas, Attorney General Paxton is using the courts, not the legislature, to attack Harris County's Uplift Harris pilot project, which planned to send $500 a month to low-income households for 18 months starting in April, using $20 million in American Rescue Plan funding. Although Austin, San Antonio, and El Paso had initiated pilots earlier, it was Harris County's initiative that caught the attention of Republican State Senator Paul Bettencourt. He requested that the Attorney General offer an official opinion on the program earlier this year. Instead of issuing that opinion, Paxton filed a lawsuit, which argued that Harris County's program was unconstitutional and violated a ban on government gifts. Quote, Harris County officials cannot continue to abuse their power and the people's money to score political points, reads a statement from Paxton on his website. After 2 lower courts declined to intervene, Paxton filed for emergency relief with the Texas Supreme Court. The court didn't rule on the motion, but did put the Uplift Harris program on hold pending a decision, the day before it was set to send out its first payments. Quote, it's a frivolous lawsuit and it's a broadside attack on Harris County families that are struggling making ends meet by state extremists, says Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis. You've got 1,900 plus working families who are expecting to have their lives changed, and that have been robbed of a critical hand up. Harris County Attorney Christian Menefee says he finds Paxton's legal argument unconvincing and that the cash has a clear public purpose. Quote, from Texas's early days, caring for the needy has been a special responsibility of counties, reads the county's opposition to Paxton's motion. Ultimately, Menefee believes Paxton's attack is politically motivated. Quote, many political strategists believe that the path to the state of Texas flipping to Democratic goes through Harris County, which has larger numbers of demographics that traditionally vote for Democrats, he said. So I think this is intended to undermine officials in these jurisdictions, to stifle progress in these jurisdictions, so that they can keep the margins closed. When we are children, we are raised by our parents. Our parents take care of all of our needs. After we grow up, we move out on our own and we're responsible for ourselves. When you're not children, you can't have a government replace what your parents used to do for you. If you have an emergency, if you need part of a social safety net, of course, you get help. You're entitled to help just like everyone else. However, you can't expand those programs to the point where the government is constantly giving you free money. If you do that, government will give you enough free money that they will control your life. You will be completely unproductive and not part of society. And then when government decides they don't need someone anymore to just take their free money, what happens to you then? They don't need you. So what will happen? It's one thing to not trust the government, but it's also one thing to not trust the government when you have no other source of income really to pay your bills and keep up and be part of society. America is about independence, not dependence. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.